which was otherwise rare even for Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. But he is, without considering the qualification and eligibility, he is distributing this holy name. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we got this holy name. Everything is there in this holy name, so all we have to do is chant offenselessly with all sincerity. And then the holy name will do everything. The holy name will take us. Holy name is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, holy name is described as Nam Prabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of this holy name. And once you get the taste of this holy name, it's so relishable that Rupa Goswami is saying, Tunde Tandavini Bitonute Tunda Boli Labdhai. When I chant this holy name, I desire to have many, many tongues. Just one tongue is not enough. There is so much joy. There is so much pleasure in this holy name that one desires to have many, many tongues. Rupa Goswami is saying it in his first person. And then he is saying, Karna Krora Kadambini Ghatayate Karnar Bude Spriham. And when this holy name enters through my ears, I desire to have millions of ears. So that is the ultimate outcome of chanting the holy name. So we must chant with all sincerity, just hearing the holy name while we are chanting. And it's meant to be chanted congregationally. The more we are together congregationally, Sankirtan, when we get together, the more the merrier, more the number, the more powerful the effect of the holy name. And it's so wonderful that Gopal Bhatta Prabhu, Mother Lakshmi Mani, and their team has organized this ILS program, ISKCON Leadership Sangha. And they created such a wonderful opportunity for us to get together and chant together. And this is going to change this world. This is going to change this world. As far as the sound of the holy name goes, the influence of Kali will be dissipated. So that is our good fortune. So we all have come to Mayapur, the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here he appeared, and here he started the Sankirtan Yajna. And it is here that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to get together every year, just before the Gaur Purnima festival. The leaders are supposed to meet here during the GBC meeting, and all the other devotees are supposed to come here and get rejuvenated in their spiritual life. They will carry this nectar and distribute it all over the world. It's so wonderful that all of you have come here to create this wonderful atmosphere. And you will see the effect of this when you go back to your respective places. You will see the memories will remain so deep in your heart. And there you'll feel inspired to bring others and sit together and chant the holy name. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Sorry, I started at a low scale, so I'm changing the scale. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to our evening session. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. And Pranam, welcome to our evening session. Reading Ocean of Mercy. We'll begin our session now. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namine Snigdha Cheta Supranita Vakulam Chara Sabatam Prabhupada Nami Bhakti Charu Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devgauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shundavani Vashati Devsatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Shri Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gurudev ki jai. So thank you for joining in our evening session. So I request devotees, those who want to read, kindly raise your hand so we can start our reading session. So first is Shashi Mataji. Shashi Mataji, please join. With the
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. One second.
Yeah.
Rani Prabhu, can you allow me to do the screen share? Sorry, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So,
Hare Krishna.
here, Mataji, one second.
Recognition.
This leads to next.
This leads to. Can you let me the page number?
Yes, Mataji. Page number is 157.
157. Okay. This leads to the next branch of Vedic philosophy called Sankhya, or analytical study, which describes the material nature consisting of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and the individual with 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The senses interact with the elements, and 5 objects of the senses are generated. The ears interact with ether, the sound is produced. The skin interacts with air, and touch is produced. The eyes interact with fire, and form is produced. The tongue interacts with water, and taste is produced. And the nose interacts with earth, and smell is produced. There are also 5 working senses with which we become active in this world, namely the hands, legs, voice, anus, and genitals. In this way, Sankhya philosophy determines 20 tattvas or aspects of material nature and then consider three subtle elements beyond that: the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And subsequently, the Mahatattva, the total material energy from which the entire creation become manifest. Though these 24 manifestations, Sankhya philosophy analyzes the entire material nature. However, it concludes that these 24 manifestations are objective in nature and cannot exist without the subject, the I, the self, the soul. The entire material nature has been analyzed, but the soul cannot be found there. Therefore, it comes from another reality, the spiritual nature, and has its origin, its source in the Supreme Soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, Sankhya philosophy takes one of the spiritual reality and transcends the material nature. Recognition of the fact that the soul is a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead leads to the final aspect of Janakanda, called yoga. Yoga is the process by which the spirit soul becomes connected to the super soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This process has 8 different stages or limbs. Therefore, it is called Ashtanga Yoga: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dharana, and Samadhi. In the final stage, Samadhi, one perceives the super soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one's heart. Recognition one's minuteness and the greatness of the Supreme Lord, one's head automatically bends down in respect and one surrenders to him. This surrender to the Lord is the very foundation of devotional service, bhakti, the main aspect of the final branch of Vedic philosophy, and it has been explained through the 6th branch of Vedic philosophy called Uttara Mimamsa, or the final conclusion. It is also called Vedanta. The Vedanta philosophy is based on the Vedanta Sutra, which apparently refers to the impersonal Brahmana, but in this natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva establishes that surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and loving devotional service to Him is the actual objective of Vedanta philosophy. Thus, bhakti makes one beyond liberation to engagement in loving devotional service to the Lord. In this way, through Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, one is gradually elevated to the ultimate point of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the perfect understanding of the 6 branches of Vedic philosophy.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. So, Hare Krishna devotees, please raise your hands, those who want to read. So, we'll call turn by turn. Okay. So, next is Shivani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
On one Ekadashi, a semi-monthly day of increased spiritual focus and fasting from at least grains and beans, the devotees had not been properly informed and had eaten grains for breakfast. Later, when we found out that it was Ekadashi and I informed Srila Prabhupada, he became upset. He called Pradyumnan and asked, what is the point in having a Pandit with us if he can't even figure out when is the Ekadashi? When Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada what we should do, Prabhupada said that we should fast the next day. He had not had any grain, but since we were not observing Ekadashi that day, he would not either. He would fast with us on the following day. Later, I learned from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the Vaishnava instruction manual, that people under 8 or over 8 years of age need not observe the Ekadashi fast. Srila Prabhupada was 80, but he fasted anyway for our sake. The next day, Srila Prabhupada showed me how to cook on Ekadashi feast. He asked me to get kuttu atta, pulverized amarnath, and Singhar atta, and demonstrated how to make puris and kuttu atta and pakoras, halwa and singhara atta. He made puri dough with kuttu atta, rolled the puris, and then fried them in ghee. Fried balls with the batter of singhara atta and shredded cabbage made the most delicious pakoras. He boiled some potatoes and cut them into pieces, which he fried, and also made a few vegetable preparations and tomato chutney. At last he made the halwa with singhara atta. The devotees were ecstatic. It was one of the rare occasions when Srila Prabhupada cooked everything himself. I only assisted washing and cutting the vegetables, providing Prabhupada with whatever he needed, while the devotees watched silently from outside. Another day, Srila Prabhupada asked me to cook bati chachari, chachri, bati chachri, the preparation he had taught me how to make in Bombay. He had been having problems with his stomach, though, and the preparation was very rich with a lot of ghee and chili, so I decided not to use so much chili. When I served it to him, however, he took one bite and immediately became angry. I personally taught you how to prepare this, he said, and you forgot. How could you forget it when I personally taught you? For the rest of the day, whenever I went to him, he repeated, I personally taught you how to cook it and you forgot. How could you forget when I personally taught you? The following day, Srila Prabhupada was still asking, how could you forget when I personally taught you? But when, but from the tone of his voice, I could tell that his anger has subsided. So I told him that actually I had not forgotten how to cook the preparation. I had decided not to use so much chili on account of his stomach. He looked at me surprised. Why did not you tell me? He asked. Then he explained, when you put a lot of ghee, you must put a lot of chilies because they counteract with each other's effect. Ghee is rich and chili is hot, but when they are put together, they counteract with each other's effect. I learned two very valuable lessons from that incident. First, I learned that when you use a lot of ghee, there must be a lot of chili as well. You needed the chili to digest the ghee. But more importantly, I learned that when Srila Prabhupada taught us something, we should always remember and never forget it.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Many devotees would remember that when Prithivardhan Maharaj also, he came and cooked. I think once he came and he cooked, and he also taught this thing that whenever in whatever dish we put a lot of ghee, then if you put a lot of chili, they counterbalance each other. And he spoke many small. I don't even remember now. Preeti would remember, but you know that who balances what. And he says this is science in cooking. Which many Gaudiya Vaishnava traditions, they know what is the science. So that's why they take very rich food, but it doesn't affect their body so much because it's a science which is working. And, so next one is Neha Jindal Mataji. Okay, please welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
As in Juhu, Srila Prabhupada was translating every night. One of his team of attending devotees had to remain with him in case he needed anything. Upendra was with him from 10 to midnight. I stayed until 2, and Parmana Maharaj stayed from 2 to 4, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj would come in. Although summer in India gets extremely hot, Rishikesh, being in the Himalayan foothills, is usually quite pleasant, with bright sunshine and modest temperatures. But one day, the sky suddenly became overcast, with dense, dark clouds, and roaring gales began to blow, followed by a torrential rainstorm, which continued throughout the night. The storm uprooted many trees and knocked out the electricity. The cables had been damaged. We were told, and there was no way of knowing when they would be repaired. We set up candles to light the room. But without electricity, Prabhupada could not translate. At around 1, during my shift, Prabhupada rang his bell. I went to his bed, lifted the mosquito net, and asked him how I could help. When I leaned over to his words, what he told me left me in shock. In a soft, serene voice, he said, "The time has come for me to leave my body. Please take me to Vrindavan. I want to leave my body in Vrindavan." I began trembling uncontrollably. I ran downstairs and woke up Tamal Krishna Maharaj, practically shouting, telling him what Prabhupada had said. He jumped out of bed and ran upstairs, where Prabhupada told him the same thing. "Please take me to Vrindavan. The time has come for me to leave my body. I want to leave my body in Vrindavan." Srila Prabhupada's health had been poor, but none of us had imagined that his illness was so serious that he could leave his body. We all thought it would be just a temporary setback and that he would soon get better. We had been confident that the visit to Rishikesh was just what he had needed and that his health would soon improve with some rest. We were all stunned by his turn of events. We packed up that night in such shock and with such heavy hearts that we could barely speak. We drove to Delhi the next day, stopped overnight, and the following morning left for Vrindavan. The Vrindavan devotees were jubilant over Srila Prabhupada's sudden, if unexplained, arrival, and as his red ambassador approached the Krishna Balaram temple, the Kirtan was vibrant beyond imagination, and the devotees were dancing ecstatically. Even I was drawn into the Kirtan and lost myself in the chanting and dancing, for the moment forgetting why we had come. After greeting the deities, Srila Prabhupada walked to his quarters, the crowd of devotees following behind. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Vrindavan, May 17, August 28, 1977. Srila Prabhupada settled gracefully into the asan behind his desk in the large darshan room. 2 windows faced the temple. Framed pictures of Krishna's pastime and other Bhagavatam scenes decorated the walls, and on a shelf were sets of Prabhupada's books in various languages. The devotees continued to chant and dance, expressing their happiness at his arrival. When the Kirtan ended and the devotees quieted down, Prabhupada announced the purpose of his coming to Vrindavan. In a moment, the devotees' joy turned to sadness and tears flowed down their cheeks. Seeing their condition, Prabhupada spoke about the nature of our existence in the material world, quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, "Dehino asmin yatha dehi, komaram yauvanam jara, tatha dehantar prapte dhiras tatra na muyhati." As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes to another body at death. A self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. The body changes, he explained, but the proprietor of the body, the soul, does not. It is unchanged. The body is born, it grows, and then it dies. No one in this world can avoid death. Whoever is born is bound to die, but death is only the end of the body. The soul is not affected. It continues in another body. In this way, the living entity transmigrates from one body to another, life after life. One who is situated in transcendental knowledge is not disturbed by this. The Krishna conscious movement, Prabhupada explained, is meant to give people this invaluable cushion knowledge. When one becomes situated in this knowledge, one conquers death. He had given all the knowledge, all the information in his book. He would not always be there in his vapu, his physical form, but he would always be there in Vani form, his words in his book, and his spoken instruction.
Hare
Despite,
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for Okay, next we have Ronnie Prabhu. Please continue.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I think Neha Kumra Mataji is there before me.
She's there before you? Yes, she's there. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Neha Kumra Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Despite
Hare
Srila Prabhupada's eloquent explanation, when the devotees filled out, they were still shocked and disheartened. After they left, Prabhupada told me, from now on, don't cook anything for me and don't force me to eat anything. What is the use of eating when there is no appetite? His words sounded like an ultimatum. He was going to stop eating and drinking in order to give up his body, just as Parikshit Maharaj had done when he learned that he had only a week to live. I went to Tamal Krishna Maharaj and related what Srila Prabhupada had told me. His divine grace is engaging in Paryopvesha, I said, when one decides to give up his body by not eating or drinking. Maharaj remained silent for several minutes thinking. Then he said, what can we do when Srila Prabhupada makes such a decision and gives us such an order? Although Prabhupada had asked me not to cook or force him to eat anything, I made fruit juice and kept it on a table next to his bed, just in case he wanted something to drink. But the juice remained untouched, and for the next few days he stayed in bed, hardly speaking. When we had stopped in Delhi on our way to Vrindavan, Tamal Krishna Maharaj had spoken to Adi Keshava Swami in New York, informed him about Srila Prabhupada's condition, and requested that he inform devotees around the world. So in the next few days, many devotees arrived, especially GBCs and sannyasis. Tamal Krishna Maharaj organized a meeting with all the leading devotees. I stayed back with Srila Prabhupada, and after the meeting, they all came to his room and gathered around his bed. Tamal Krishna Maharaj informed Prabhupada about the meeting and told him that they had decided to request him not to leave so soon. We are like a bunch of children, he said. If you leave us now, we will become orphans. We will become totally lost. You are a pure devotee of Krishna. Krishna will do whatever you want. Therefore, if you want to stay, then Krishna will positively let you stay. Srila Prabhupada was silent for a short while. Then he said, if that is what you want, then I will stay. In a flash, the devotees' mood turned joyous and they all shouted, Jai Srila Prabhupada. We realized that for a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, the decision to stay or leave this world was under his control. I did not wait for Prabhupada's permission to resume cooking. I immediately went to the kitchen and started to prepare him lunch. And when I informed him that I had prepared something, he agreed to eat. I brought the plate to his bedroom, but although he sat up on his bed and tried, he could hardly eat anything. From then on, I cooked Prabhupada a full meal every day, and when at noon it was time for him to eat, Upendra would help him walk to the next room, which served as his dining room, and sat him at a low table. Vishambhar Dayal, known as Bhagat Ji, lived nearby in a humble dwelling and came to see Prabhupada every day. After often bringing chas, buttermilk made from his own cow's milk, which Prabhupada relished. Bhagat Ji was a Vrajvasi, a resident of Vrindavan who was born there. He had known Srila Prabhupada in his early days in Vrindavan and had helped with the construction of the Krishna Balram temple. Although he was not initiated by Srila Prabhupada, he treated him as a spiritual master, and Prabhupada showered his affection upon him. Bhagat Ji spent a lot of time with Prabhupada just sitting by his bed. Although he was quite old, probably in his late 60s, he had a powerful body and he liked giving Prabhupada massages. They spoke intimately as if they were close friends. But Bhagat Ji always maintained a respectful attitude. Srila Prabhupada would express his concerns about the future of the movement to him, and Bhagat Ji would assure Prabhupada that he should not worry. He had trained his disciples so nicely that they would carry his mission forward. Atriya Rishi Das brought special limes from Iran. He hailed from an aristocratic Iranian family, had an MBA from Harvard, and had held an important position in an American multinational corporation. But when he had met Srila Prabhupada, he had given up his job and dedicated his life to the movement. Prabhupada was quite fond of him and often expressed his pride in having him as his disciple. Srila Prabhupada was still hardly eating or drinking, but the limes, a speciality of Iran, had his particularly sweet taste. And when I made him lime juice, which had to be served immediately, since it became bitter within a few minutes, he liked it and asked for more. We were all happy and relieved to see him accept something and even take pleasure in it. Atreya Rishi immediately arranged for several boxes of limes to be sent from Iran, which pleased Srila Prabhupada very much, and I began to serve him the juice regularly. Since Atreya Rishi was from a professional background, he had tried to professionalize ISKCON's management in Los Angeles. He had wanted to centralize ISKCON's affairs and make everything run more efficiently. The devotees, especially the managers, had been impressed. But Srila Prabhupada thought that centralization would undermine local devotees' enthusiastic spirit. Every temple should be an independent unit, he said, a separate legal entity run by a temple president with a team of devotees. He did not even want the governing body commissioners to interfere with temple management. Rather, they should see that the spiritual standards in their zones were properly maintained and through spiritual guidance and preaching, inspire the devotees to be engaged in their service. In later years, we saw how Prabhupada's directive to keep temples separate and independent was a saving grace, since one temple could not be held responsible for the legal or financial problems of another, nor could many temples be grouped together to face lawsuits. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, would anyone else like to read as well?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, it's Ronnie Prabhu's turn now, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Should I start?
Yes, Prabhu. Please start. And devotees who have not read, if they want to read, please raise your hands. Go ahead, Ronnie Prabhu.
Atreya Rishi delighted Prabhupada with good news from Iran. The royal family was becoming favorable to Krishna consciousness. Parivarjakacharya Swami had developed a friendly relationship with the Shah's family, and the Shah's sister, who had become a vegetarian and even started chanting, was actively involved in ISKCON and had personally designed the interior of the Govinda's restaurant in Tehran. The restaurant was quite popular and had so many patrons that they often had to wait in line. Srila Prabhupada was extremely pleased to hear of such preaching success, especially in an Islamic country, and mentioned that there had been close connections between India and Iran since time immemorial, and that it was Indian Kshatriyas, warriors, who had settled there. By nature, Iranians were noble, as their lineage had descended from the Kshatriya class. Srila Prabhupada then explained to Atreya Rishi why he had not approved of his plan to centralize the management of ISKCON. Atreya Rishi was visibly embarrassed and cast his eyes downward, but Prabhupada spoke to him with affection, telling him that the Krishna consciousness movement was spreading due to the inspiration of devotees to do something for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. If there was too much control, that inspiration would be lost. In material corporate management, everything was organized and structured efficiently to get the most out of the employees, and the employees did not mind being exploited in the way because they were getting paid and because they knew that if they did not perform, they would be fired. In Krishna consciousness, however, that kind of control would not work because devotees rendered voluntary service out of love for Krishna. Their motivation was Krishna's pleasure, not financial gain or fear of punishment. On the material platform, laws existed to control the individuals, whereas on the spiritual platform, laws were there to facilitate devotees service and spiritual advancement. Srila Prabhupada gave his own example. When he had gone to America, he had not expected anything of the boys and girls he met. He had simply told them about Krishna and their loving relationship with him and taught them how to develop that loving relationship. They had become inspired by his teachings, come to feel that his message should go out to others and taken up that responsibility. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement had spread all over the world. He had not tried to control them, but had simply given them the vision, motivated them, and tried his best to facilitate them. When the devotees had been inspired to serve Krishna, he had bestowed his mercy upon them, and as a result, the most wonderful miracle had happened. Atreya Rishi looked up at Srila Prabhupada, his eyes shining with appreciation. Srila Prabhupada, he said, "You are the perfect example of that. You have made the impossible possible by your devotion, and Krishna's potency acted through you to make you achieve such an impossible miracle." Srila Prabhupada looked at him and smiled. Then he said, "A devotee simply wants to serve Krishna for his pleasure. He desires to do something for Krishna, and Krishna fulfills his desire. In this way, a devotee becomes empowered by Krishna. This is how Krishna spreads Krishna consciousness in this world. He does not act himself, but acts through his devotees by empowering them. Therefore, whenever we see some remarkable achievement in Krishna consciousness, we have to understand that it is happening through the devotees because they have been empowered by Krishna. The preaching in Iran had become so successful that Atreya Rishi, who had been the head of the American accountancy firm Arthur Young, had resigned from his job and started his own business to free himself to preach and help guide Iran's spiritual activities. Ironically, his company had become so successful that he was even busier. Hearing that, Srila Prabhupada laughed and said, "That means you are making more money now." When Atreya Rishi admitted that this was true, Prabhupada said, "Then use it in Krishna's service." Atreya Rishi then reported on Pakistan, which was also in his zone. A Hindu lady who had married a Muslim governor of the state was taking great interest in promoting her original Hindu culture, and her husband was supporting her. Srila Prabhupada asked if there were still many Hindus in Pakistan. There were, Atreya Rishi confirmed, but they faced great difficulties, and many continued to live there only because they did not have anywhere else to go. Still, as they became aware of Krishna consciousness, they saw a glimmer of hope and responded favorably. The news that gave Srila Prabhupada the greatest joy was that book distribution was going well, that Back to Godhead was being printed in the Iranian language, and that the Persian translation of the Bhagavad Gita was almost complete and would be printed in 3 months. Devotees everywhere were informed that Srila Prabhupada had said that the news of the book distribution gave him life. This inspired them even more, and amazing news started to come in from the world. In just 1 week, the London Temple had distributed a record 70,000 books. And the more books devotees distributed, the more Prabhupada, even from his bed, pushed to have more printed. "Don't keep money in the bank," he directed. "Just print books. That is the best investment. That is the best way to multiply your money." One of the most successful book distributors worldwide was Ghanshyam Das, an African American devotee who was risking his life to spread Krishna consciousness in the Soviet Union and communist Eastern Europe. Wherever he went, his dark complexion drew attention and made his situation even more dangerous. In some places, no one had ever seen someone with such a dark skin or met anyone who spoke only English.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rani Prabhu. And Ghanshyam Prabhu is who later became His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. And I also feel very inspired, what we read on the page 168, that it's a very personal moment, and we see how Prabhupada taught Guru Maharaj. And if you see, Guru Maharaj has a similar mood. I'll just read this wonderful paragraph again. It says, okay, I'll read. Srila Prabhupada, I will bring it here, this one second, so you can all read it. It's a very wonderful paragraph. This one. Srila Prabhupada looked at him and smiled. Then he said, a devotee simply wants to serve Krishna for his pleasure. He desires to do something for Krishna and Krishna fulfills his desire. In this way, a devotee becomes empowered by Krishna. So how we become empowered? It is by our desire to serve Krishna. And what is happening, that Krishna fulfills our desire. And Prabhupada is writing, in this way, a devotee becomes empowered. And this is how Krishna consciousness spreads. This is how Krishna spreads Krishna consciousness throughout the world. He does not act himself, but act through his devotees by empowering them. Therefore, whenever we see some remarkable achievement in Krishna consciousness, we have to understand that it is happening through the devotees because they have been empowered by Krishna. So we see how devotees, innumerable devotees, have been empowered, and it's such wonderful seva. And we see how Prabhupada's personal, understanding of the whole movement is a very personal movement, and and there is no better one to have the personal interaction with everybody than Guru Maharaj in our movement. And we see how important it is to inspire devotees to rise rather than, like Prabhupada was saying, to control them, because that's a material way of doing things. But our way of doing is to inspire devotees that they rise further and they take the movement further. And this is the whole meaning of Amanya Tattva or Parampara. So I thought I'll share with all of you. Thank you. Okay, now we have next Chandan Paul Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Although he went into the countries behind the Iron Curtain as a tourist, Ghanshyam could have been arrested for being a spy, which would have meant life imprisonment or death. Once in Russia, when 2 KGB agents followed him into a university building, he ran through a corridor and ducked into a professor's office, where he told the professor he had an appointment. The professor, who happened to speak English, said he knew nothing about an appointment, but invited Ghanshyam to sit down. A moment later, the 2 agents rushed in, but after speaking with the professor in Russian, they left. And once the professor had listened to Ghanshyam's sales pitch, he placed a standing order for Srila Prabhupada's books. Wow. In the Yugoslavian city of Ljubljana, after 4 days without success, Ghanshyam had met an Indologist at the university who at first had not been interested, but had then become so attracted when he saw the books that he placed a standing order for everything Srila Prabhupada had written. Also in Ljubljana, an international bookshop had bought several volumes, and a man had offered to translate 2 of Prabhupada's books into one of Yugoslavia's languages and have them published. In the next city, Pristina, a university dean and the chair of the philosophy and sociology departments, had placed 2 standing orders and also requested that the library place an order for all Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada would wait eagerly for news of Ghanshyam's efforts and was both extremely pleased and quite moved to hear his reports. This boy goes without sleep at times for 3-4 nights from one city to another, getting orders for my books, he marveled. He is indeed a spiritual warrior. When Ghanshyam wrote to Srila Prabhupada how time and again he had become aware that Krishna was helping him overcome dangers and difficulties, Prabhupada commented that Ghanshyam's success in the face of so many challenges, including his bodily features, his inability to speak the local language, and the government's opposition and the threat of arrest, was a perfect demonstration of both one's dedication to the spiritual master and the wonderful reciprocation one would receive from Krishna in devotional service. As Srila Prabhupada received uplifting news about book distribution from around the world, he also regained a bit of his appetite. One day, still sitting at his asana after lunch, he asked me if I knew how to get to Gopinath Bazar. It was my first visit to Vrindavan, and I had not even stepped out of the temple complex, so I did not. But I assured him that if he needed something, I could find out where it was and get it for him. He asked me to go look for an Ayurvedic doctor named Vanamali Kaviraj, who had treated him previously, and request him to come. So later that afternoon, I went to Gopinath Bazar and found Vanamali Kaviraj at the front of the market, seated on a chair behind a wooden table in a small chamber that served as his clinic. He was an old man with white hair and a frail body, and even sitting in his small unkempt room, he looked dignified. But even sitting in his small unkempt room, he looked dignified and impressive. I told him that Srila Prabhupada wanted him to come and treat him. But he said that he would not be able to venture out that far due to his old age and weak body. He never left his quarters. Just sitting up in his chamber was an endeavor. If Srila Prabhupada came to his place, he said, he could treat him there. I knew there was no way Prabhupada could travel to the bazaar, however, so I begged him, practically falling at his feet. Srila Prabhupada's condition is quite bad, I explained, and he has requested that only you treat him. Finally, Vanamali Kaviraj agreed, and I took him to the temple in a rickshaw. I could see how difficult it was for him to travel. Every time the rickshaw jolted on the uneven road, he winced at the pain shooting through his body. When we arrived, Vanamali Kaviraj glorified Srila Prabhupada for his wonderful preaching achievements, for spreading Krishna consciousness and attracting so many devotees throughout the world. Prabhupada rarely agreed to take any kind of treatment, even Ayurvedic, but he'd had good experience with Vanamali Kaviraj before, and now he was allowing the doctor to treat him. This had created quite a sensation among the devotees, and many had gathered around Prabhupada's bed while Vanamali Kaviraj sat on a chair, felt his pulse for a long time, paying very close attention. Srila Prabhupada's kidneys were not functioning properly, the doctor reported, and as a result, he was having difficulty urinating. That, in turn, was causing the swelling of his legs and pain in his body. Tamal Krishna Maharaj confirmed that this was also the diagnosis of other doctors, including Vimalananda Tarkatirtha in Calcutta. Vanamali Kaviraj then took me into the next room and told me about a potential problem. The medicine would have to be prepared fresh, and he was not sure how he could do that. He could stay in the guest house, I told him. We would make arrangements for him to be comfortable, but he said that he had to stay at home. So I suggested that if he showed me how to prepare the medicine, I could make it. He liked the idea and took me to a nearby field where he showed me two different herbs, one called Punarnava and Patharkuchi, and collected their leaves. Back in the kitchen, he showed me how to extract their juice and added two different salts, one white and the other a reddish pink. I started to prepare the medicine and give it to Srila Prabhupada 3 times a day. I would fetch Vanamali Kaviraj in Prabhupada's car to come treat him every afternoon, and I began cooking for Prabhupada regularly again. Gradually, his condition began to improve. Accordingly, the mood among the devotees improved as well. Many had come to Vrindavan to be with Srila Prabhupada, and he visited the temple every morning to have darshan of the deities, and then sat under the tamal tree in the courtyard as the devotees chanted and the Gurukula boys danced. Sometimes he would go on a morning walk and then give Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So we can see how much close association Guru Maharaj got from Prabhupada, and so many devotees shared in so many classes we are having that that devotees got less association in 10 years than what Guru Maharaj got in those 8-9 months he was there, from January 1977 to November 1977, the Srila Prabhupada. So it's very nice in such detail. So now, who wants to read? Please raise your hand, or I can read for some few minutes. Okay, Sham Sundari, Radhika Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
As Prabhupada's health improved, so did his appetite. Each morning he would tell me what he wanted for lunch and often how to prepare it. One day he told me to get spinach, pumpkin, eggplant, bitter melon, and radish. When I went to get the vegetables in the devotee kitchen, however, I was told that we were in the 4 months of Chaturmas, a period when devotees fasted from spinach. So I went back and reported that to Srila Prabhupada. Is everyone observing Chaturmas? He asked. From his question, I understood what I had to do, and I went to the market to get the vegetables. When I returned, Prabhupada asked me what I had purchased. I told him spinach, eggplant, radish, pumpkin, and then I realized that I had forgotten the bitter melon. But I did not want to tell him. I would quickly send someone to the market, I thought, so I added and bitter melon. He said, bring them. I ran fast as I could to get Kishan, the guest house worker who sometimes assisted me, and told him to take the bicycle and ride as fast as he could to the market and get bitter melon. I stood at the outer temple gate waiting expectantly for Kishan's return. But when he got back, out of breath from the exertion, he said that there had not been any bitter melon in the market. I was already feeling terrible about having lied to Srila Prabhupada. Now I would have to confess. I wished I could just disappear, that the earth would split open and swallow me whole. I turned back to the kitchen, overwhelmed with guilt and remorse, when all of a sudden, outside the kitchen, what did I see on the ground but a bitter melon? Fresh and green, as if it had just been picked. I had no idea how it had gotten there. Maybe someone had dropped it coming back from the garden. Not questioning my fortune, I pounced on it and held it close to my heart, thanking Krishna for his mercy. I collected the rest of the vegetables and brought them all to Srila Prabhupada, who was now sitting on the floor on a mattress getting a massage. Barely looking up, he instructed me how to cut them. When I asked how to cut the bitter melon, he glanced up at me, smiled, and said simply, bitter melon. Just from the way he spoke those 2 words, I could tell that he knew exactly what had happened. I just cast my eyes down, unable to admit that I had not told him the truth. One afternoon, Srila Prabhupada was sitting on the roof and I was at his feet. Next door in the DT kitchen, the cooks were preparing offerings. Prabhupada must have smelled something frying in ghee, and he asked me to go find out what it was. In the kitchen, I found that Vibhu Chaitanya Das, Prabhupada's elderly Bengali disciple, was frying kachoris and samosas. When I reported this to Srila Prabhupada, he asked me to get some for him. Although his digestion had improved considerably, Prabhupada sometimes had stomach problems, and he was in the middle of a difficult period. Still, when he told me that he wanted kachoris and samosas, I became excited and ran to get them. I was practically sprinting from the roof when I ran to Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhavanand Maharaj coming to meet Srila Prabhupada. They asked what was going on, but as I began to tell them that Prabhupada wanted kachoris and samosas, Tamal Krishna
interrupted. You can't give kachoris and samosas to Srila Prabhupada when he is having such stomach problems. But Srila Prabhupada wants it, I called out. And without waiting for a response, I hurried past, got Prabhupada's silver plate, and ran to the DT kitchen when I told Vibhu Chaitanya that Srila Prabhupada wanted kachoris and samosas. He just showed his usual bright smile and placed 2 of each freshly prepared on the plate. I brought the plate of prasad to Srila Prabhupada and placed it on a small table in front of him. The kachoris and samosas were still hot, so Prabhupada first mashed them with his fingers, then picked up one small piece and started to eat. Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhavananda Maharaj sat watching, but Prabhupada looked at them and said, "Don't see." Their heads dropped and they looked down. Tamal Krishna always looked after Srila Prabhupada's health and would sometimes try to persuade him not to eat something he should not. But most of the time, Prabhupada did not listen. Prabhupada's sister Pishima was also in Vrindavan at that time. And when I told her about the incident, she remembered how fond of kachoris he had been in his childhood. When she heard about Tamal Krishna's concern for her brother's health, she commented, "If he wants, he can digest even stones." Another regular visitor was Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor, a well-known scholar and prominent personality in the Vrindavan community. He and Srila Prabhupada would reminisce, and after they spoke, Dr. Kapoor would often sit with the devotees and tell us about their early days together. He had met Srila Prabhupada in 1931 in Allahabad, where he was attending the university during one of his visits to the Gaudiya Math. Srila Prabhupada was running his pharmaceutical business there and had once given Dr. Kapoor a tonic that he had manufactured. Upon receiving it, Dr. Kapoor had joked, "Abhay Babu, I wish you would give me the tonic which you yourself take, the tonic of Krishna Prema, pure love of Krishna." "I don't have that tonic as yet," Srila Prabhupada had replied, "but I have the formula. If the formula is not a secret, then will you please give it to me?" "No, it is not a secret at all. Trunat api sunichena taror api sahishuna amanina manadena kirtane sadahari." One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking himself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. This is the formula, he had said, and I am going to preach it all over the world. At that time, Dr. Kapoor told us I couldn't recognize the significance of his words, that he really was going to preach it all over the world. I thought it was just a casual statement, but now I look back and can see that even then he was thinking and planning to preach all over the world, which he did.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Let me ask you, who remembers which Maharaj quoted this particular pastime giving class recently? Does anybody remember? Somebody?
Sachinandan Maharaj?
Yes, His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj. He read these lines from Guru Maharaj's book when he was giving lecture, and he explained how this is the formula. And also that day when Bibi Govind Maharaj was giving class, at that time His Holiness Bhakti Prem Maharaj also asked Bibi Govind Maharaj, because he's known for his chanting and japa, so please give us some tips for japa. And then Bibi Govind Maharaj also said the same thing. He said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is our Acharya. And the second verse of Shikshashtakam, he has said that I have no taste for the holy day. So he says that in the third verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the answer, and which is this verse. So he says, what better you can hear than from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came as the Acharya and said that please meditate upon this verse. And also this verse, also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also told his disciples that this is our Siddha Pranali. We read how one day somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, what is my Siddh Swarup? And Srila Prabhupada got very, very angry. And he said, you rascal, you rascal. And so there is another way. And but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, this is our Siddha Pranali, is this verse. You know, Pranadapi Sunichana, Taruravi Sarvshana, Manina Manavena, Kirtanaya Sadahari. And he said, we should hang this as a pendant in our neck. You know, this is an ornament of a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And we must, meditate upon this wonderful verse. Thank you, Mataji. Please continue, Mataji. I will do the screen share. Please continue, Mataji.
Okay. Every day, Tamal Krishna Maharaj would read out devotees' letters to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would indicate how he wanted Maharaj to reply. In one letter, a devotee wanted to offer his longevity to Prabhupada so that he could continue to be with us on this planet. It was a sweet letter, steeped with emotion, but Prabhupada responded that our real love for him would be shown by how we cooperate with each other to continue his mission. One day, two sannyasis, Achyutanand Swami and Yashodananda Swami, came to see Srila Prabhupada after having visited several Indian temples and recounted a humorous incident. While they had been gazing at the deities in one temple, the pujari had told them that since they had developed such devotion, in their next life, they would be reborn in India to further their spiritual progress. Srila Prabhupada laughed at the story and told them that they should have responded that since the pujari had developed such appreciation for their devotion, in his next life he would be born in ISKCON. Everyone laughed, and Prabhupada told us a joke. In a small village in India, an old lady was cheated out of her land. When a mobile court was set up in the village, some of the women well-wishers suggested to her that she could approach the judge and ask for justice. The judge settled her case, returning the land to her and punishing the miscreants. The old lady was naturally very pleased with the judge and blessed him. I bless you that in your next life you will become a police constable. Prabhupada laughed. According to her, the police constable was the most important person. Having a bit more energy, Srila Prabhupada was able to accept more visitors. The governor of Tamil Nadu, Prabhudas Patwari, came to see him one afternoon, accompanied by his wife and two granddaughters and escorted by Akshayananda Swami. Mr. Patwari was a dignified elderly gentleman, and Prabhupada sat up in his bed to greet him and his family and asked us to bring them chairs. But Mr. Patwari said that he preferred to sit on the floor. He was concerned about Prabhupada's health, he said, and invited him to come to Madras for what he considered the best treatment in India. Srila Prabhupada graciously appreciated the offer but declined, saying that he was not so keen on medical treatment, especially injections and operations. The governor was sympathetic and said that he could arrange first-class Ayurvedic treatment. He offered him accommodations in his house, which was really more of a palace, but Srila Prabhupada, detached from the material comforts, was not interested. When Mr. Patwari again recommended Madras' excellent Ayurvedic facilities, Prabhupada pointed out that our material bodies do not last forever, but are subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. When the body gets old, he said, disease is inevitable, as is death. Instead of trying to extend the duration of our stay in the body, Prabhupada advised it is wiser to prepare oneself for what comes next. The governor listened attentively, occasionally nodding his head in approval. I was impressed. He was such an important person, yet he visited Srila Prabhupada more than once and showed him both respect and loving concern.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mother.
Krishna.
So we come to the end of the section, and such nice. I think it was Radharaman temple where devotees were told that they will be, blessed to take next time birth, in India to further their spiritual progress. And Prabhupada, being always in the transcendental platform, told them that they should have blessed them, that they will be next time born in ISKCON. So we can understand that, Prabhupada saying that being born in India and serving Thakurji's deity in Vrindavan, and Prabhupada is saying that the preaching is a higher service. And, I hope we can grasp that somebody being born in India, in a good family and serving, Krishna in Vrindavan in his deity form, and the preaching service is much higher. And also that wonderful line which Guru Maharaj says so many times that, in the first para, that somebody wrote a very emotional letter, especially in India. Even now we are also saying the same for Guru Maharaj, that, whatever is a disease, it comes to us, or whatever is a problem, it comes to our body. But Prabhupada, he replied that the love will be shown, how we cooperate with each other and each other to continue this mission. So nice. And I think it was, again, I think Sachidananda Maharaj, who again said devotees when asked what to do, and he said cooperate with each other, help each other. And Gurujan Maharaj also said the same thing, that how you can help in these things. He says help each other. That is the best service. And Sachidananda Maharaj said that anything which Guru Maharaj likes, that service, if you do this, you will get pran. So it's so wonderful that we are fortunate to be born in this ISKCON, to be in this ISKCON family, and have such wonderful and loving affection among senior God brothers of Guru Maharaj. We see the mood Prabhupada has given, that they have rightly taken it. So with this, we'll end the session now. And I was very surprised when somebody asked in the beginning, what is the page number? And I said 157. And I was shocked how it could be 157 so soon. Did I miss some section? I read the book again. This section did we skip by chance? I fast forward the PDF, but I progressed, rightly through fields that have just gone. So thank you so very much for attending these sessions. And we'll end the session today. Krishna willing, we'll meet tomorrow evening again. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Dev Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Parshat Deshadari Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.